All right, two small marks booking. We back. All right, starting off with Raw, coming off a Saturday night main event. It started with Punk, Logan, and then the Vision interrupting them. I would have just had Punk come out and pretty much celebrate his win. And then after that, well, first Punk celebrates, and when he starts mentioning Seth, Becky's music hits. And then Becky comes out and complains as usual. She talks about Maxine. She talks about the Vision betraying Seth. And she talks about Punk not beating Seth to win the title, so Punk isn't better than Seth in her eyes. Becky then tries to smack Punk, and Punk stops her and like grabs her hand and says, "This is cute and all, but did you forget about someone?" And then AJ Lee comes out of nowhere and jumps on Becky and starts beating her ass, and then gives her a slap, and then she goes tumbling out of the ring and going towards the back. And then as she approaches the back, Adam comes out and says, "Becky, you've been avoiding this match for long enough. Tonight it will be Becky Lynch versus AJ Lee for the IC title." Becky's pissed at the announcement and says it's not fair because she didn't have time to, prepare and stuff like that. Because you know how wrestlers look at videotape of other wrestlers. And Becky then sits there. Oh no! And then Adam then says, "Too bad. A champion should always stay ready." And then Becky sits there and thinks to herself and says, "Okay, we can fight tonight, but under one condition. I pick the stipulation." And Adam says, "Fine." And then Becky says, "I want Maxine Dupree as a special guest referee." And everyone except Becky looks confused. And Adam says, "Okay, good enough for me." And that's how the segment ends. CM Punk is then right there hyping up the crowd to cheer on AJ Lee as she, you know, they cheer on after the match is set. And my explanation for this is I changed this opening to obviously not include Logan Paul, but to also further the story with Becky and AJ Lee. Now that Punk is champion, Becky did make an appearance on Raw, but I felt it was more of a filler segment just to give her something to do. So I'm content with this change. And then it would have been a commercial, and then coming back from commercial would have been a backstage segment. And there would be the muted audio of just the commentators talking, and what you see is Becky talking to Maxine backstage, presumably about her as the referee, and Maxine looks distraught and worried, while Becky's looking like more demanding, like you better do it, like better do it, but you don't hear what they're being said because it's obviously muted. And then it goes to the next match, and then the next match was supposed to be Stephanie and Nikki Bella versus the Judgment Day. I'm changing that to a triple threat match for the number one contender for Stephanie's title. Before the match, the commentators provided an update on Bailey. They said that she's still in the hospital and suffering from third-degree burns, and that she's out indefinitely. And also, Lyra has been suspended indefinitely and fined for her actions against Bailey. So for the match, in this match, the participants are going to be Rhea Ripley. You got to have Rhea Ripley in there, but she's only in there because she's taking the spot of Bailey because Bailey was supposed to be in this match. And then Raquel Rodriguez is also in the match, who won against Nikki Bella, and also Asuka is in this match. So the match is pretty clean throughout. Roxanne, of course, tries to do some stuff, but Rhea quickly counters and knocks her out and stuff. And in the match, Rhea and Asuka still have some tension, so they're mainly focused on like the recent animosity they have for each other. And then Raquel, she's able to take advantage of it though, and she ends up picking up the win. And she does it by pinning Rhea Ripley clean. And the match ends with Raquel becoming the new number one contender for Stephanie's title. And the reason I have this is because I did this to give Raquel some type of push because she's been good in terms of in ring action. We already mentioned they missed the ball of having her not beat Rhea in the summertime, so I'm giving Raquel some justice with that and putting her in the title picture because I think she deserves it. And then after that match, I would have had a backstage segment of I would have had Maxine go to Adam and say like she can't do the match for undisclosed reason. When he asks like why can't you do the match, and Adam says he's sorry, but she has to do the match or get fined, and that's what he took. And he said that because he was told specifically from higher ups that she had to do the match. So, and that's how that happens. And then next it was Penta versus El Grande Americano. Sure, match is fine. I would have just had that go how it did. And then after that match, it was a Dom segment. He came out and talked. It was really Rey Mysterio that came out and started talking. But instead, I'm gonna have Dom and LA Knight come and do it. So I would have had Dominic come out like he did to brag, but he was also with Finn and JD with him. Like JD and Finn was also with him. And then instead of Ray interrupting him, LA Knight interrupts him. And I think a talking segment between Dom and LA Knight would be entertaining. I think LA Knight could talk about how Dom needs to watch his back for two things: one for him because he's coming for the title, and one for from Finn and JD because they're gonna turn on his ass. And Dom could be like, well. I have twice as many titles as you ever have, so listening to you wouldn't be a wise career choice. And then Dom could then go on and say, how you gonna challenge me? You can't even beat JD, and like point to JD, and the camera pans to JD. He's like, what you mean? And LA Knight then says, how about we test that theory then, and then I beat him, and then you're next. How about that? Yeah, you know how he does. And then that leads into the one-on-one match between JD and LA Knight, and in the end, LA Knight picks up the win. And that pretty much inches him closer, gets him closer to the match with Dominic Mysterio for the IC title. And I did it because last week I set the breadcrumbs of LA Knight going after the IC title since he hasn't been having any luck in the main event picture. I think we all know that. I think putting LA Knight in a position where he can actually win a title is better for him than just putting him in the main event picture just to lose. LA Knight is already 43 and he still can win it like a major title. He just needs to be built back up in terms of wins and momentum because it's not like the crowd doesn't love him. I mean, so that's my plan for him. So after that, I would have a video package with Lyra just simply apologizing to Bailey about what she did, just throwing a torch, a fireball in her face. Lyra is of course suspended, so this is just a video package that is just being shown. And then the main event, it was Punk and Jay versus the Vision, but of course I said it as Becky Lynch versus AJ Lee with Maxine as a special guest referee. Before everyone comes out, there's a clip in the back of Becky walking like to the ring in the back, and then she walks past Maxine, stops, looks at her, says nothing, and then continues walking to the ring. And then in the match, Maxine is still looking distraught through the match, and it's pretty back and forth. It's also during the match, Becky's getting in Maxine's face, trying to like boss her around, like you know how heels do. And then there's a spot where Maxine kind of hurts her wrist due to Becky like grabbing her during the match and like trying to put her in front of AJ Lee. And then Becky tries to. It was also another spot where Becky tries to get the belt and hit AJ Lee, but Maxine gets in front of her, and Becky's like, "Oh yeah, you gonna do this to me? This is what you're gonna do?" And with that distraction, AJ Lee does her finisher and then pins Becky, and then Maxine goes to count 1, 2, and then grabs her wrist as if it was preventing her from counting to 3. And AJ Lee is like confused and gets up. Is like, what the hell was that? What's going on? What's going on? And Maxine's like, you don't understand. I'm so sorry. And then while they're arguing, this gives Becky ample time to recover behind AJ Lee. Maxine sees it, turns her back on AJ Lee. Becky hits AJ Lee with the belt in the back of the head. Then Becky does her finisher on AJ Lee, and then Maxine counts to 3. Becky retains, and then it ends with Maxine crying while holding Becky's arm up because Becky told her to, like she did Lyra, on I forgot what show that was, but when she beat Lyra, she's like, hold my arm up, like that. So, and that's how Raw end.